The night was colder than the grave, and the wind whistled through the broken boards of the abandoned church like a choir of ghosts. She sat there in the dark, clutching the rags around her shoulders, her body shaking, her face hollow with hunger. Folks in town called her cursed, some whispered she was tainted, others swore she brought death to any man who laid eyes too long on her. She didn't fight the names anymore, outcast, witch, beggar. They'd taken everything else from her, her pride was the last to go. The door creaked open, and her breath froze in her throat. A tall figure stepped in from the snow, hat low, boots heavy, coat dusted with white. He struck a match, lit a lantern. In its glow she saw the man who had been haunting Whispers all season, the widower Cowboy with 2 little girls clinging to him like shadows. He looked at her, and it was not pity in his eyes but something harder, more dangerous. He said words that froze her blood and burned her all at once. "I need a mother for my girls, and you need shelter." No one had spoken to her like that before, not like she was a bargain to be made in the dead of night, not like her soul could be exchanged for bread and warmth. Her lips trembled, but no sound came out. "You don't have to love me," he said, his voice low, rough as gravel. "But you'll feed them, clothe them, keep them safe. And in return, you'll have a roof over your head. Ain't nobody else in this town will give you that." She should have said no. She should have run. But she thought of the nights curled against stone walls, rats scratching at her feet, the gnawing in her belly that never stopped. And she thought of those girls she'd glimpsed once, hollow-eyed, motherless, walking close behind him while townsfolk stared. Her voice cracked like a dry branch. "What if I'm not fit?" His gaze didn't waver. "You'll try. That's more than I can do alone." And so the deal was struck. Not with a ring, not with a kiss, but with a silent nod and the sound of boots crunching snow as they walked toward the lonely cabin on the edge of the prairie. The girls did not trust her at first. Their eyes, wide and wary, watched her every move as if she might vanish or turn into smoke. They whispered to each other in corners, clutching rag dolls with hair made from twine. The eldest, no more than 8, had her mother's defiance in her jaw, while the younger clung to her father's leg as though it were the last safe place on earth. She did not know how to be a mother, but she knew hunger, and she knew cold, and she knew what it was to feel unwanted. She made bread from what little flour was left in the barrel, even if it was coarse and flat. She mended their dresses with uneven stitches, pricking her fingers until they bled. She sang songs so old and broken she barely remembered the words, but the girl stared as though hearing music for the first time. The cowboy, he watched. Always quiet, always measuring. He'd lost his wife 2 winters back to fever, and since then the lines on his face had deepened, his silence had thickened. He wasn't cruel, but he wasn't gentle either. His hands were cracked from work, his voice blunt as a hammer. Yet there was something in the way he checked the locks at night, the way he brushed the frost from his girl's hair, the way he stacked wood so they would never freeze again, that spoke louder than any tender word. But the town didn't forget. They saw her on his arm at Sunday service, and whispers slithered like snakes. "He's desperate," some muttered. "She bewitched him," others hissed. The preacher's wife wouldn't meet her eyes, and men who once jeered at her now stared too long, hunger in their gaze, daring her to falter. One night, as the fire cracked low, the eldest girl asked her the question she had feared most. "Are you really my mama now?" She froze. The cowboy looked up from sharpening his knife, his expression unreadable. Her voice shook. "I ain't the woman who gave you life, but I'll be the woman who stays. If you'll have me." The girl's eyes filled, and for the first time, she let the woman hold her, small arms clinging tight as if testing whether she would disappear. But peace does not last long on the frontier. It was the kind of land where men took what they wanted, and the law rode too many miles behind to matter. When word spread that the widower Cowboy had taken in the outcast, trouble followed like buzzards on the wind. A man came riding up to their cabin one dusk, face hidden under a black hat, gun on his hip. He called her name like a curse. "You think you can hide? You owe me, girl. And debts don't vanish just 'cause you found yourself a fool to keep you." The cowboy stepped onto the porch, rifle in hand, steady as the earth. "She don't owe you nothing now." The man laughed, mean and sharp. "You really think you can keep her safe? Ask the last fella who tried." The girls clung to her skirts, trembling. She wanted to vanish, to run, to let the past devour her. But then she felt their tiny hands gripping her, and she knew running meant leaving them to face monsters alone. So she stood, weak knees be damned, and spoke louder than she thought she could. "I don't belong to you. Not anymore." The cowboy raised his rifle. "Ride on, before I plant you in this dirt." For a breathless second, the man didn't move. The girls whimpered. The fire cracked. Then, with a curse, he spat on the ground and wheeled his horse into the night. The cowboy lowered his gun, his eyes finding hers in the dark. He didn't smile, but something in his face softened, like a storm passing over. Later that night, when the girls slept safe by the fire, she whispered, "Why would you risk your life for me?" His answer was as raw as the winter wind. "Because my girls looked at you like you were worth it. And maybe you are." Her tears fell hot, burning trails down a face too used to cold. For the first time, she let herself believe she wasn't just an outcast, a ghost of a woman. Maybe she could be a mother. Maybe she could be more. The days turned to weeks, and though the shadows of her past still lurked, the cabin became something she'd never known before, home. She learned to laugh again, soft and startled, like a bird taking flight. The girls began to run to her arms when they were hurt, to tug at her dress when they wanted stories, to call her Mama without hesitation. And the cowboy, he never said the word love, but he brought her wildflowers he claimed he happened to find, though his boots bore the mud of miles walked to get them. He fixed her chair when it wobbled, even though his hands were calloused raw from other work. He looked at her sometimes, when he thought she wasn't watching, with an ache that spoke louder than words. The prairie was still harsh, the winters still long, the dangers still lurking. But together, they were stronger than the loneliness that had nearly broken them all. And in that hard land, where nothing came easy and nothing lasted forever, a bargain struck in hunger and desperation grew roots deeper than any vow, stronger than any ring. For the widower cowboy had given her shelter, and she had given his girls a mother. And in the quiet between storms, they gave each other something even harder to find, hope.